So I talked to one dude in the media who I've known for a very long time and I absolutely trust. And what he told me was very, very interesting. What he said was how we got here is a combination of two things. One of them is that you couldn't get a straight answer from anybody at Colorado about Shedeur. That everybody at Colorado was so over the top complimentary of Shedeur, keeping in mind that his father is the coach there. Nobody wanted to say anything negative about him, which then made a lot of evaluators, whether they be team evaluators or people that do this for the media, that made a lot of them really skeptical because they couldn't tell. People didn't have the sources to give them a clear read. The other thing was, he said that so they've got that. They're not trusting the info. They don't think the film is good. So then they got to a place where they were like, okay, well, let's just say where we think he's going to go. But also people being very skeptical and worried about saying something bad because Deion Sanders is vengeful toward media members. You saw that at the start of the 2024 season where he started telling people that they couldn't come to press stuff and answer questions because he didn't like what they had said. And so then you wind up with people being nervous and they don't really know. And so people are putting them in their mock drafts because they want it. Go ask people who cover the league and cover the draft. Ask them who they talked to that said that Shedeur Sanders was a first rounder. Because this guy told me he didn't have anybody tell him he was a first rounder. The guys that I know, I didn't have any of them tell me that Shedeur Sanders was a first rounder. They didn't have anybody that said he was. So it wound up in that situation. You ever been in something at work where everybody thinks somebody else is going to do it? Especially when it's something that nobody wants to do. Everybody just thinks somebody else is going to do it. Oh, well, okay, I ain't worried about that. Somebody else is going to do it. Then you look up and nobody had it done. Everybody thought somebody else was going to take Shedeur. But none of them wanted to take him themselves. And so when the guys call up and they do their mock drafts, they're like, what about Shedeur? They're like, hey, man, I don't know, but somebody will take him. And it just goes around in this circle and everybody says, well, hey, somebody's going to take him. But part of the reason a lot of these teams couldn't do it on the evals was Shedeur and his father did not make it easy for people to evaluate him. I'll give you an example of somebody who did this. Michael Porter Jr. in the NBA was coming off a back injury and went into the draft. And they were trying to maneuver where he went. And so one way that they maneuvered where he went was don't give up the medicals. So this guy's coming off of back surgery. For example, the Chicago Bulls. Hey, Michael Porter, we're thinking about drafting you. Can you give us your medicals? Nope. You'll have to take me guessing about the state of my back. Hey, Denver, we want you. You want to give us our medicals? Hey, we like Denver. Okay, cool. We'll send them over. You try to make it to where you go. That's the sort of thing that you can do when you have leverage. And what is very clear to me is that Deion misjudged what kind of leverage his son had. He got bad information. I think his son was operating on the principle that my daddy knows everything. My daddy knows this league. And my daddy says I'm going to be a top 10 pick. So I ain't got to go to all these places. I have had people tell me things about the way that Shedeur carried himself in meetings that he had with teams. And it was poor. It was the way that you behave when you have the leverage. And he wasn't good enough to have that leverage. And again, some of us were telling you that as a talent, there were shortcomings. He didn't have the physical traits that NFL teams look for. We told you this. We did. So stop acting like everybody was so sure that Shedeur was going to go early. And then now the league they decided to put their thumb on this outspoken black man. You know how disrespectful that is to actual outspoken black men? No, that's just not what happened here. They thought they had more flex than they did. They thought the league was more interested in him than they did. They thought these teams were like, hey, they need a quarterback. They going to take this one. They seen what it is. They ain't going to pass this up. And they passed it up over and over and over and over again. And once again, what did I tell you earlier? If you're not going to play and you're going to be quarterback, people got to like you. And the way that he went about this process did him no favors. And again, it's not simply about him being confident. Do you know how many confident black men they deal with all the time in this league? Like, why are you acting like he's the first one? It's almost like you're implicitly calling the rest of these cats Uncle Toms. Shedeur the one that's standing up to the powers. No, that's just not what happened here by all the information that I've taken in at this point. He just overplayed his hand. His father overplayed his hand. And that's where you see at the end, though, once he got drafted, he sounded a lot more humble, didn't he? And what I hate about this, honestly, for him and honestly for Deion Sanders, is by overplaying this hand and talking this up and basically coming up with a strategy that treated Shedeur Sanders like he was Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders can go to the combine and not do nothing but run the 40 and tell my agent to call me and leave if Deion Sanders wants to do that, right? All this stuff Deion can do. Deion Sanders can go to practice and not wear shoulder pads. He can do all this stuff. Shedeur Sanders isn't that good. He can't use the same program, right? Carrying yourself like a star only works if you are one. And in this case, he is not. But the disservice is this. Shedeur Sanders was lightly recruited. Before Deion got that job at Jackson State, he had signed to play for Florida Atlantic. He was going to go play for Willie Taggart at Florida Atlantic University. Deion Sanders, who, to my eyes, has been running a grand quarterback experiment for a long time to get one of his boys as an NFL quarterback, has coached this young man all the way through since he was in high school, brought him to Jackson State, got him the best player in the country to throw passes to, took that to Colorado, built that program up, got Travis Hunter to a place of being a Heisman Trophy winner, and got Shedeur Sanders all this pub, got him to the place of being a second-team All-American, and this guy that was not a heralded recruit got himself to be a fifth-round pick in the NFL draft. You know how hard it is to be a fifth-round pick in the NFL draft? And do you appreciate how difficult it is to be a fifth-round pick in the NFL draft? And the two of them together did that. Deion Sanders might be dad of the year. He engineered all of this and pulled this off and got his son into that position. And everybody that claims they're supposed to be happy for him is all caught up in what didn't happen. All caught up in him not getting the pick that somehow you thought that he deserved to be, even though the league never said that he was a pick of that caliber. They never did. Applaud that young man, because he the one that stood on camera getting embarrassed the first night. He the one that stood on camera the second night. He the one that had to deal with that asshole little boy, the son of the defensive coordinator of the Falcons, who prank called him. And I just want to throw this out here. 21 is old enough to drink, old enough to drive a car, old enough to go outside and fight your daddy like a man. Just throwing it out there, Mr. Old Brick. Grab the gloves and take them out back, because somebody need to show that boy what life is. But anyway, Shedeur had to put up with all of that. He had to endure that. He's the one that's now going to have to climb the depth chart. But you know what? One could look at that as a continuation of the story. But that's not the story that the Sanderses wanted to tell us. They wanted to tell a story that put the cart a bit ahead of the horse. And then they lived a story where the cart stayed ahead of the horse. They made those mistakes. Nobody else did that to them. They played this like he was an NBA lottery pick, and he was just another football player.